I wasn't snooping. That's what everyone assumes when you tell them you read something you weren't supposed to, but I need that on record. I came home early from a site inspection because the concrete pour got delayed and found her diary open on the kitchen table. Not hidden, not tucked away, just there next to her coffee mug with condensation still on the glass. The page was 47. I know because I can still see the number in the corner, small and neat like everything she wrote. The first line stopped me cold. If he knew what I did last summer, he'd never look at me the same. I stood there with my keys still in my hand, jacket half off, and read it 3 more times to make sure I wasn't filling in words that weren't there. My wife Sarah and I had been together for 6 years, married for 4. We had routines that fit like old jeans, a house we'd painted together, and a dog named Murphy who slept between us most nights. She worked in pharmaceutical sales. I ran project sites for commercial builds. We weren't fireworks, but we were steady, or so I thought. The entry was dated August 14th, 3 months ago. I remembered that week. She'd gone to a conference in Denver while I stayed back to finish a strip mall renovation. She called me twice, sent pictures of her hotel room and a plate of nachos, said she missed me. The diary said something else entirely. It started with details about a hotel bar, a man named Colin from a competing firm, and drinks that turned into a walk that turned into a room number she wrote down on a napkin. She described the hallway, the door opening, the way he kissed her before she could think about what line she was crossing. Then it went further. She wrote about the hours, the things they did, the guilt that came after when she was alone in the shower at 4 in the morning trying to wash it off her skin. But what gutted me wasn't the sex. It was the line at the bottom. I don't regret it, I regret that it ended. I put the diary down exactly where I found it, page still open, and walked into the garage. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes staring at the oil stain on the floor shaped like a continent I couldn't name. My hands didn't shake. My chest didn't explode. I just felt like someone had swapped out my life with a duplicate that looked right but way different. When Sarah came home an hour later, she was humming. She set her purse on the counter, saw the diary, and her face flickered just once before smoothing out. "You're home early," she said. "Yeah," I answered. "Concrete issues." She picked up the diary and closed it casual like it was a magazine. Her eyes met mine and there was a question in them, but she didn't ask it. I didn't offer. That night we ate leftovers in front of the TV and she laughed at a joke on the show we always watched. I studied her like she was a blueprint with missing measurements. She looked the same. Blonde hair pulled back, freckles on her nose, the scar on her wrist from when she fell off a bike at 12. But the woman who wrote those words was someone I'd never met. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't throw the diary at her or pack a bag or scream until my throat bled. I went to bed, and when she reached for my hand under the covers like she did every night, I let her take it. I wanted to see how long she'd pretend. The next morning I called my buddy Jake, who'd gone through a divorce 2 years prior. He met me at a diner that served coffee that tasted like regret. "You look like someone hit you with a 2x4, he said, sliding into the booth. "Close," I said. I told him about the diary, about page 47, about the line that wouldn't stop looping in my head. He stirred his coffee and didn't say anything for a full minute. "You gonna ask her about it?" "I don't know." "If you don't, it'll rot you from the inside. If I do, it ends." "Maybe it already ended," he said. "You just didn't get the memo. I spent the weekend watching her. She cooked breakfast, folded laundry, asked me about work. She was good, I'll give her that. There were no cracks, no nervous glances, no phone tilted away from me. She moved through our life like the diary didn't exist. On Sunday night, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and started looking for answers in places I never thought I'd go. I found a private investigator with decent reviews and a face that looked like he'd seen worse than my situation. I met him Monday afternoon in an office that smelled like old carpet and microwaved lunch. "I need to know if it was just once," I told him. He leaned back in his chair. "You already know it wasn't." "How?" "Because you're here." He took my retainer and promised me a report in 2 weeks. In the meantime, I played the part. I kissed Sarah goodbye in the mornings, asked about her day, sat next to her on the couch. It felt like wearing a costume of myself. The investigator called me on a Thursday while I was reviewing blueprints. "I've got something," he said. "Can you come in?" I told my foreman I had a family emergency, which wasn't a lie, and drove to his office. He slid a folder across the desk. It was thicker than I expected. "There's a pattern," he said. Colin wasn't the first. There were 3 others over the past 2 years. Different cities, different conferences, same story. He'd pulled hotel records, credit card receipts, even found a second email account she used to coordinate. The last one was a guy named Brett from Atlanta. That was 6 weeks ago. I opened the folder and saw photos, not explicit, just confirmations. Her walking into a hotel with a man who wasn't me, sitting at a bar with her hand on someone's arm, laughing in a way I hadn't seen in months. "How long do I keep pretending?" I asked. "That's not my call," he said, "but if it were me, I'd stop today." I went home with the folder in my passenger seat. Sarah was in the kitchen making pasta, the kind with the sauce she knew I liked. She smiled when I walked in. "Hey babe, how was your day?" I set the folder on the counter between us. "Long," I said. "What's that?" "Everything you didn't tell me." Her smile died. She stared at the folder like it might bite her, then looked at me. Kyle, I can explain. I held up a hand. Don't insult me by trying to explain 4 separate people in 4 separate cities over 2 years. Her mouth opened and nothing came out. She reached for the folder and I pulled it back. You don't get to see the receipts. You were there. The tears started right on cue. I didn't mean for it to happen. 4 times. She wiped her face. I was lonely. You were traveling. I was here, I said. Every night, every call, every time you said you missed me, I was here. You chose not to be. That's not fair. Fair, I repeated. You want to talk about fair? She broke then, full sobs, hands covering her face. I stood there and felt nothing but tired. I'm leaving, I said. Tonight, now. I'll get my things tomorrow when you're at work. But Kyle, we can fix this. We can't fix what you broke 4 times over. She grabbed my arm. Please, don't touch me, I said. Not quiet, not loud, just flat. She let go. I walked out with my keys and my wallet and nothing else. I stayed at Jake's place that night. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and pointed to the couch. The next day I went back while Sarah was out and packed 2 duffel bags. I took my clothes, my tools, and a photo of my parents. I left the diary on the kitchen table, open to page 47. 3 weeks later, I signed a lease on a small apartment near the site office. It had thin walls and a view of a parking lot, but it was mine and it didn't have ghosts. Sarah called 16 times in the first week. I didn't answer. She sent texts that ranged from apologies to anger to bargaining. I blocked her number. My lawyer handled the rest. The divorce was clean because I didn't want anything but out. She kept the house, the dog, the furniture. I kept my sanity. Jake asked me once if I regretted reading the diary. No, I said, I regret not reading it sooner. 6 months later, I'm in a better place. Different job, same work, new people who don't know my story. I started running in the mornings and sleeping through the night. I even went on a date with a woman named Emma who didn't ask about my past on the first meeting. I still think about page 47 sometimes. Not because I miss Sarah, but because it taught me something. People will show you who they are if you pay attention, and when they do, believe them the first time. I heard through a mutual friend that Sarah's engaged now. Some guy she met at a yoga class. I hope he reads her diary before he says I do. As for me, I'm done with open books that hide closed chapters. If someone wants me in their life, they'll write me in clearly. No footnotes, no margins, no page 47. If this story meant something to you, you're going to love what's coming next. Click that video right there for another story about someone who chose consequences over silence. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. I post new stories every week. Hit that bell so you never miss one. I'll see you in the next one.